This time we're calling the meeting to order. We please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, clerk.
Post.
Here.
White. Here. Underhill.
Here.
Michaelak. Here. Zambito.
Here. Someone move to accept the minutes of the following meetings. The August 19th, 2020 regular town board meeting, the September 2nd, 2020 public hearing to submit community development block grant applications to New York State Office of Community Renewal, and the September 2nd, 2020 special town board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Zambito.
Yes.
Underhill.
Yes.
Michaelak.
Yes.
White. Yes. Post.
Yes. Resolution 140.
Resolution to introduce proposed local law number 3 of 2020 and to schedule a public hearing. Whereas the town board of the town of Batavia, New York desires to consider adopting legislation to override the limit on the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the town of Batavia pursuant to General Municipal Law 3-C, and to allow the town of Batavia to adopt a town budget for fiscal year 2020 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit, also known as Town of Batavia Local Law Number 3 of 2020. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Batavia, New York, that proposed Local Law Number 3 of 2020, entitled A Local Law to Override the Tax Levy Limit established in General Municipal Law 3-C, which proposed local law is now in its final form, as appears by a copy thereof hereto attached, be and the same hereby is introduced for adoption. And be it further resolved that said proposed local law be laid upon the desks of the members of this town board on this date, to remain there, and a copy thereof be kept on file in the office of the town clerk until October 21st, 2020, and that a public hearing be held before this town board on the 21st day of October 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Batavia Town Hall, 3833 West Main Street Road, Batavia, New York, on the advisability of enacting said proposed local law. And be it further resolved that a copy of said proposed local law be mailed to each member of the town board not in attendance at this meeting in a postpaid, properly addressed and securely closed envelope in a post box within the town of Batavia, New York, not less than 10 calendar days, exclusive of Sunday, prior to the date of said public hearing. And be it further resolved that the town clerk shall cause notice of said public hearing to be published once in the Daily News, at least 5 days prior to the date of said public hearing, which notice shall contain the time and place of said hearing, the title and purpose thereof, as well as a statement that a copy of said proposed local law is on file in the town clerk's office. So moved.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
White. Yes. Michaelak.
Yes.
Zambito.
Yes.
Underhill.
Yes.
Post.
Yes. Dan, resolution number 141.
Resolve the town training workshops. Resolve the Batavia Town Board hereby authorizes the following personnel to attend training workshop. Heidi Liebrack, Municipality Ethics Virtual Training was August 27, 2020. There was no cost for this webinar. Sarah Saka participated in Leadership Arts and Culture Day was September 2nd, 2020. Heidi Liebrack, Association Towns Financial School was September 9, 2020. There was no cost for this webinar. Heidi Liebrack, Office of the State Controller, New Financial Report was September 15th. There was no cost for this webinar. Teresa Morasco and Heidi Liebrack, Association of Towns Talk with Tom September Talk with Tom, September 16th, 2020. There was no cost for this webinar. Heidi Liebrock and Teresa Marasco, Association of Towns Budget, September 29th, 2020. There's no cost for this webinar. And Jeremy Lyles, New York State Housing, Mobile Home Rent Regulation and Eviction, Insulation and Foundation Training, September 29th, 2020. There's no cost for this webinar. And Teresa Marasco, Association of Towns, Roles and Responsibility of the Town Board, October 20th, 2020. There is no cost for this webinar. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Underhill.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Michaelak.
Yes.
Zambito.
Yes.
Post.
Yes. Resolution 142, amendment number 1 to professional services agreement Clark Patterson Lee for engineering services, Agri-Business Park Pump Station improvements. Whereas the town engineer has requested a proposal from Clark Patterson Lee to provide additional professional services for the Agri-Business Park Pump Station and force main upgrades. And whereas Clark Patterson Lee has prepared a proposal attached as requested by the town engineer for a not-to-exceed fee of $7,500 to be completed on a time and expense basis. And whereas the town engineer has reviewed and recommends acceptance of the Clark Patterson Lee proposal, now therefore be it resolved, the Batavia Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the engineering services proposal agreement, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made a part of the minutes between the town of Batavia and Clark Patterson Lee for additional services to be rendered in connection with the Agri-Business Pump Station for an amount not to exceed $7,500. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Post.
Yes.
Underhill.
Yes.
Michaelak.
Yes.
Zambito.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Patty, resolution 143.
Amendment number 1 to professional services agreement, Clark Patterson Lee for engineering services, West Main Pump Station improvements. Whereas the town engineer has requested a proposal from Clark Patterson Lee to provide additional professional services for the West Main Pump Station improvements. And whereas Clark Patterson Lee has submitted the attached proposal for a not-to-exceed amount of $8,000 to be completed on a time and expense basis. And whereas the town engineer has reviewed the proposal submitted and recommends its acceptance. Now therefore be it resolved, the Batavia Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the engineering services proposal agreement, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made a part of the minutes, between the town of Batavia and Clark Patterson Lee for additional services to be rendered in connection with the West Main Pump Station for an amount not to exceed $8,000. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Michaelak.
Yes.
Zambito.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Underhill.
Yes.
Post.
Yes. Resolution number 144. Ted?
Appointment of Assessment Board of Review, whereas Heidi D'Angelo's term on the Assessment Board of Review expires September 30th, 2020, and she wishes to be reappointed to the Assessment Board of Review. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Batavia Board hereby reappoints Heidi D'Angelo, 3825 Pike Road, Batavia, New York, to the town of Batavia Assessment Board of Review, commencing effective date October 1st, 2020, and expiring September 30th, 2025. Be it further resolved, said member appointed is subject to completing the required training within each calendar year, and be it further resolved, if the training is incomplete, the town board will consider the position vacant and re-advertise to fill the vacancy. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Zambito.
Yes.
Michaelak.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Underhill.
Yes.
Post.
Yes. Karen, resolution number 145.
Resolution to retain special counsel to defend the town and assessment proceeds, Alliance Energy Transmissions, LLC, and Kin Incorporated, Corp. Whereas notice of petitions were filed in the Genesee County Clerk's Office on July 15th, 2020 and July 17th, 2020, and served upon the town of Batavia on July 16th and 20th, 2020 for the tax assessment cases entitled Kin Incorporated, Corp., VMD Company, LLC versus Town of Batavia Assessor, et al., index number E68447 and Alliance Energy Transmissions LLC versus Town of Batavia Assessor et al., index number E68452. And whereas the town assessor received a proposal letter from the law firm of Bennett, DeFlippo, and Kurtzhalt LLP to retain special counsel. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Batavia, New York, that Joel R. Kurtzhalt, Esquire, of the law firm Bennett, DeFlippo, and Kurtzhalt LLP, be retained as special counsel to defend the town in the above-named tax assessment litigations upon the terms and rates as set forth in his letter to the town assessor dated August 12, 2020, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made a part of the minutes. And be it further resolved that payment is hereby authorized for his attorney's fees and legal assistant fees billed monthly. And be it further resolved, disbursements and expert witness fees which are charged over and above the hourly rates and any necessary appraisal work will need prior town board approval. And be it further resolved, the expenditure will be expended from the line item A1355.402. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Seems repetitive, we do this every year. Roll call, please.
White,
Yes.
Michaelak,
Yes.
Zambito,
Yes.
Underhill,
Yes.
Host.
Yes. Dan, resolution number 146.
Professional service agreement, Fred Maxwell, CPA's PC for cybersecurity vulnerability assessment services. Whereas an annual cybersecurity vulnerability assessment needs to be conducted, and whereas Fred Maxwell, CPA's PC, submitted a proposal to perform an annual cybersecurity vulnerability assessment at an annual cost for 2020, 21, and 22 as follows: 2020, 2,500; 2021, 2,625; 2022, 2,756. Now therefore be resolved, the Batavia Town Board hereby authorizes a cybersecurity professional series agreement with Fred Maxwell CPA's PC to perform an annual vulnerability assessment for 2020, 2021, and 2022 at an annual cost as follows: 2020, 2,500; 2021, 2,625; 2022, 2,756, a copy of which annexed in here is made part of the minutes. And be it further resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute said agreement. And be it further resolved, the expenditure will be appropriated from line item A1680.402. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Underhill,
Yes.
Zambito,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Michaelak,
Yes.
Host.
Yes. Thank you. Would someone make a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
That didn't take long. I never saw money get spent that fast since my wife went shoe shopping. Roll call, please.
Zambito,
Yes.
Michaelak,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Underhill,
Yes.
Host.
Yes. Under department reports, I have a report from Dan Lang that the building inspection and zoning officers have been completing all field inspections on a regular basis. They've been answering all calls and responding to all emails. They continue to work on more efficient ways to complete their roles and responsibilities remotely and are still completing a variety of tasks remotely. They're receiving residential and commercial permits daily. A plan review is completed daily from remote locations, and we are reviewing as received. They are working on property maintenance violations for Batavia and all intermunicipal agreements that they have, reviewing site plans when submitted, completing floodplain reviews, responding to all FOIL requests, and processing any request as received. A few long-standing code violations in the town will be in court in the upcoming weeks. They've assisted many other towns and villages in response to what is occurring during the pandemic. assisting all local assemblies and businesses in life safety and occupancy load requirements, putting together fire inspections for the upcoming seasons, and they continue to work throughout the county and our shared service partners, as well as facilitate our organization's needs as they change on a day-to-day basis based on what Albany decrees. So that's his report. Water sewer operations continue to clean up some of the last of the improvement projects and repairs that are in the water sewer operations, hydrant repairs, valves. I think they've completed 43 out of 54 tasks in the last 6 or 8 weeks. They're nearly complete with a couple of the pump station upgrades that they've been working on, and continue to train on safety, and had confined space training today. Continue to flush and monitor the water quality and work on the budget. Highway operations are working primarily on Stegman Road, preparing roadside, including tree removal, trimming, ditching, and grading, preparatory to upgrades on Stegman Road. What other? Oh, I met with the town historian. Went over her budget and what she has going. She'll be producing a list that I'll be able to present at next month's meeting. Under my report, status of expenditures and revenues is available for your review. I renewed the state of emergency declaration that expired on the 14th. And I did that primarily to be consistent with Genesee County, the state of New York, and the United States of America. As things percolate from on high, and the federal and state and local community respond to this pandemic, we're obligated to respond at the speed provided us in a declared state of emergency. If we don't continue the declaration of the emergency, we would then be restricted from responding to sudden changes in state and county and federal regulation changes. By having to call a public meeting, we would have to advertise that several days in advance. We would have to then have an agenda, discuss the meeting, then propose to take action, any policy changes regarding the use of the buildings and grounds, and I think there's somewhere between 50 and 80 changes that have been mandated down since COVID started in March from the state of New York. That would have been 80 extra meetings with a 5 to 7 day period between the inception of the meeting and the action taken at the meeting. And so it's not to reduce anybody from performing their tasks or keep them imposed. This is not a task taken lightly. It's a consequence of federal, state, and county agencies maintaining a state of emergency that compels us to be able to react at the speed necessary to reduce the risk and protect the citizens and the infrastructure and the staff of the town of Batavia. That's why I continue to renew these. We also are eligible for FEMA reimbursements that are incurred during a state of emergency that we may not be eligible for if we are not a declared state of emergency. There will be a special town board meeting on September 30th to distribute the tentative budget and any other business as needed. This time I'd also like to state that it is imperative that every citizen in this community absolutely ensures that they have been counted in the 2020 census. There has never been a more necessary, accurate count than this year in the history of our nation. The census determines how many seats we have in the United States House of Representatives. It defines the congressional and state districts, legislative districts, school districts, voting precincts. It determines the annual allocation of over $675 billion in federal funding for Medicaid, SNAP, highway planning, Section 8 housing, special ed grants, S-CHIPS, Title I, National School Lunch Program, WIC, Head Start, foster care, health center programs. Those programs are all funded based on population. And over the 10-year gap between census, I suspect that there's north of $30,000 in aid per person in each community that is counted. So if you take that 30,000 and multiply it by the roughly 7,000 occupants of the town of Batavia, it adds up to a substantial amount of aid that we would get, that if you're not counted, we would not get. It's a necessary component to fund all of the nonprofit agencies, and it's not about getting free money. It's about having a voice in the Congress and the Senate and the Assembly. And if you're not counted and you don't have a percentage of the population necessary to have a representative, then you don't get a representative. And I would hope that everyone goes through the process, however tedious it is, to get accounted and make sure that they have been accounted. They have until the end of the month, this month, and I would certainly hope that everyone that bothers to watch this or hears me, I would very much appreciate their attendance in this matter and get their households counted. And that concludes my report. Ms. Morosco.
August, town clerk monthly report, we collected $7,991.50. I remitted $4,452 to the supervisor for the local share. That's all I have tonight.
And thank you for that. We could use the money. Any committee reports? I'll take this opportunity, but thank you all for your attendance, each and every one of you for attending each and every budget meeting with each department headed and in assisting with that process. I appreciate your effort this evening and the previous evenings that you've given us. So it's that time, Sharon.
Okay,
Is there any old business?
there's no old business.
Okay. Chad, is there any new business?
There is not.
Would someone move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Underhill?
Yes.
Zambito?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Michaelak?
Yes.
Post.
Yes. Thank you. Again, we'll see you all tomorrow.